Northwest of the Sea of Galilee lies the ancient town of Chorazin, a place where Jesus once walked, but today, a home for the hyrax. This place was denounced by Jesus, and what archaeologists have discovered in the rubble of this ancient city might surprise you. Discoveries that make a valuable connection between faith and fact. Corazin, as described in the New Testament, was one of three cities where Jesus did most of his mighty works. Bethsaida, Capernaum, and Corazin were all a part of what some have called the missionary triangle, places where Jesus performed many of his miracles and taught numerous lessons, and yet all three towns were denounced by Jesus. Corazin, which existed during Bible times, has yet to be excavated, but its ruins from the 3rd and 4th centuries offer for us a glimpse into the past and a plausible explanation as to why it was rejected by Jesus. Corazin was built on a steep, sun-exposed hillside which possessed an abundance of black basalt stones and dark volcanic soil excellent for agriculture. The earliest evidence of settlement at this site comes from the northern part of the city, where a beautifully preserved olive oil press was discovered, and where houses were constructed using basalt beams and arches that allowed for an open area of up to 12 feet. Further east, most of the ruins visible today are from the 3rd and 4th centuries AD and possessed houses whose internal walls were fenestrated to allow for the flow of light and air. This area also contained a public building equipped with a courtyard and mikveh, or large ritual bath with a roof still intact. Adjacent to the mikveh is a large cistern which was probably used to provide live or living water for the demands of Jewish bathing rituals. Nearby, on an elevated area at the center of the town, a large and elaborate house of worship was discovered, measuring 70 feet in length. It faced south toward Jerusalem and possessed a broad staircase leading up to its entrance with an ornately decorated gable. Inside the synagogue, a large hall existed with stone benches or seats around the exterior walls. Near the entrance, an elaborately decorated chair was discovered, used perhaps by those who publicly read from the Torah at a synagogue service, a chair referred to by Jesus as the seat of Moses. Others suggest that because of the dedicatory inscription honoring its donor, it might have been one of the chief seats in the synagogue. However, the most surprising and striking find associated with the synagogue were hundreds of fragments of decorated stonework, one of which was a Medusa, a well-known talisman or lucky charm from Greek mythology used to ward off evil spirits. A Medusa was a mythological female monster with snakes for hair, and its presence in a Jewish house of worship should have been an abomination. What then do all of these facts have to do with Jesus denouncing the city? The Bible tells us only that the citizens would not repent. So if the Jewish city of the biblical times was anything like that of its descendants, then maybe they refused to disassociate themselves from pagan influences. Maybe they had become complacent with their comfortable lifestyle, situated on the peaceful and beautiful Galilean hillside. Or maybe they were enslaved to Jewish traditionalism and willingly rejected the real essence of a messianic kingdom that elevated the poor instead of the prominent. Whatever the reasons, their condemnation by Jesus and the ultimate demise of this community resulted because of their disobedience. Perhaps a hard pill to swallow for some, but sometimes the connections between faith and fact found here in the land of the Bible surprise us, and they certainly can present us with some uncomfortable yet undeniable truths. In the northern territory of Israel, at the top of an enormous precipice, a magnificent panorama unfolds before your eyes. The view from Mount Carmel is spectacular, and the grandeur of this place has for generations lured countless numbers of visitors who have come here to not only take in the grand vistas, but also to remember the epic duel between Elijah and the prophets of Baal. The name Carmel means vineyard of God or garden growth. And the Bible tells us that King Uzziah employed vine dressers and farmers in the mountains of Carmel. King Solomon compared the beauty of his beloved to the magnificence of Carmel, and prophets like Jeremiah and Isaiah used the lushness of this area as a metaphor for what God's people would experience when they were restored to the land after their punishment in captivity. As one peers across the Carmel Range, it is easy to imagine why peoples of antiquity came to settle here. On top of Mount Carmel, one might feel as though they were closer to the heavens, and if you were a Canaanite, or perhaps an Israelite influenced by pagan theology, you might very well be attracted to this place, believing it to be a likely location to encounter the revered storm god called Baal. The Canaanite word for Baal simply means Lord, but the legendary 1929 discovery of the Rosh Hashanah text revealed that to the Canaanites, Baal was the ruler of heaven as well as a god of fertility and agriculture. Among Baal's titles were Rider of the Clouds, Almighty, and Lord of the Earth. At times he was portrayed as holding a scepter in the shape of a lightning bolt, and sadly, many of the Israelites fell prey to this erroneous view of an alleged Canaanite rainmaker. And they failed to remember the covenant God had made with his people Israel, which said, to love the Lord your God and serve him with all of your heart and with all your soul. Then I will give you the rain for your land in its season. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. In utter disregard for the covenant, King Ahab of Israel adopted the culture of the Canaanites and built an altar and temple in Samaria for both Baal and his female consort. This idolatrous worship caused the prophet Elijah to pronounce a curse upon Israel, which brought a severe drought to the land and direct assault on Baal, the alleged god of fertility and rain. After 3.5 long years with no rain, Elijah called for a duel on Mount Carmel. It was here that Elijah called into question their religious devotion. How long will you falter between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, follow him. The Israelites were at a geographic and religious impasse, and they needed to stop their compromise. It was then that Elijah gave instruction for 2 altars to be built with a challenge to the prophets of Baal to call upon their alleged God to consume with fire one of the sacrifices, and then for Jehovah God to consume the other. Baal, the storm god with his scepter of lightning, could not ignite the fire, but Jehovah God, however, could and did, and thereafter brought the needed rain to end the drought. Today, on one of the highest points along the Mount Carmel range, stands a statue in a monastery dedicated to the memory of Elijah and his victory over idolatry. While it is true that no one today knows the precise location of this epic duel, we do know that the cultural and geographical context associated with this biblical event is absolutely consistent with the findings of both geography and archaeology. The location and reason for the duel are in perfect harmony with the facts of history. So while the view from Mount Carmel is spectacular, it is also enlightening. It confirms a powerful connection between fact and faith right here in the land of the Bible.